Uh, let's get on with it. This is, well, not this. This is the view that you are used to from me when I do a demo, coming down on my lathe. I've got my wall clock here that I just completed. Um, I have added, I've put cameras in the shop and a computer so that I can do the YouTube stuff, the YouTube live. So there's top, there's zoomed in. Here's the end view that I was just talking to you on, but I can also come up close. But then I've got another camera. Um, I've talked about it let me go back over here. I've talked about my bowl lathe a couple of times, but I've never shown it because it just didn't really have a way to show it. Dana and I were talking here a few weeks back, and to use it, to show it being used, we just thought might be fun, something a little different. This is strictly a bowl lathe. Sue was just talking about having your tailstock clean, your live center straight and inserted well. Not so on this particular lathe. What you see there is my wood, and what little bit of, well, there's really not a bed. There's a place for my tool rest. I'm going to switch a couple of things around. I've still got to move things manually so I can see what I'm doing all the time. There we go. Bring my mouse over here with me. Okay, you guys can see what I'm doing, I think, and I can see what I'm doing. So this is where we are. When we get to the time, if you need a closer view, I can give you a little closer view. And all that's done through the magic of software. But anyway, this is a shop-made lathe. The man who his grandson made it for him, and he didn't have it too awful long, and he died. He was an industrial arts teacher, taught art as well. And unfortunately, there just before his death, he did not even remember that he was an artist or that he turned. He didn't know what this machine was shortly before he died. His sister and brother-in-law were clearing out his shop. I had gone over to help them put some prices on some things, including a barn. It's about a 30 by 40 barn, 3 levels, and every bit of that was cram-packed, jammed up with wood blanks and logs that he had collected over the years. And I helped them get an idea on how to price that wood out. Seems like they ended up selling it by the pickup truck load. And it had everything: walnut, cherry, oak, golly, anything that grew in the western part of the state of Kentucky. Lots of maple. He even would take a truck and fill it up when he went on vacation. So anyway, they got rid of 90% of the stuff, and they called me up one day and said, "Hey, we still got this lathe. If you we really want you to have it." And I said, "Well, there's only one issue. I am broke and I just can't afford it." They said, "We want to make you an offer you can't refuse." I said, "Well, I just told you I'm broke, so unless you're going to give it to me." They said, "Well, we're not going to give it to you, but how about $50? So I went and got it, paid them $50 for it. This thing is, this lathe is about, I have to guess, it's about 600, between 600 and 700 pounds. It's a 1-horse, 220 motor. It is Reeves drive, and it runs a belt about that wide. It's huge, a big leather belt. At slow speeds, it's indexed, the speed control thing is indexed from 0 to 10. Anything below 4, and it rattles like, it just rattles bad, like an old Singer sewing machine. At 4, it quietens down, and I've got this balanced enough where turning it at 4 is fine. So that's where we're at. I started it at 1, and was dreading having to start there, but I don't have to. Anyway, this is a big piece of walnut. It's held on to the lathe with a faceplate. I've got a small faceplate. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to tell you. The spindle is a 1" 8. Why in the world they built this big lathe with a 1" 8 spindle? I do not know, but they did. So I've got a small faceplate, but that is then screwed to about a 6" piece of 3/4 inch ply with some long wood screws going into it. Not too long because this wood is not real thick in this area right here. And I wanted to have enough. I'm going to go and Brenda, if you will tell me when we're getting close to the hour, I'll just stop there. So we may or may not finish tonight. Taking my ring off, got my face shield on, and I think we're going to be okay. Let's get to turning on this and normal kind of things. If there's some immediate questions, feel free to ask. And if I don't hear it right away, Brenda, you hang on to it and relay that to me when I can hear.
Okay. Thanks, Doug.
Yep. Takes just a minute for it to speed up. Just double check, make sure we're tight on the tool rest. Just kind of taking my time as we get started here. I don't want to break it off of those screws, but like any rough piece, it's going to take just a minute to get things worked down. And it doesn't take long until we have to make some adjustments to the tool rest. Not everything is done in the most convenient way on this particular lathe, but that's the way it is when somebody else builds it. It's not to my specs, but to theirs. That's still pretty far away. See what we can do about getting it a little closer. There we go. That's much better. Found myself about 1 1/4 inch away. I think one of the reasons it takes so long to spin up to speed is because that belt is probably pretty old. Probably could use replacing, but I dread the day I actually have to replace it because I'm guessing it's going to be very expensive. There we go. Some of you may have heard of a VB36 lathe. Same idea. It's just a bowl lathe, an open-ended bowl lathe. Or maybe you heard of a Union Graduate. Both of those can be either open-ended like this one is, or they can have beds attached as well. I'm overpowering it just a touch. This lathe in its current configuration will turn a 24-inch blank, which is a good bit bigger than what my normal lathe will do. I sped it up and it was just a touch too much. I'm up to about
475 at this point. There we go. This lathe, as big and heavy as it is, will still vibrate and get out of balance a little bit. There we go. But it's just a load of fun to use. Like I said, my Nova will typically, well, the way it's made, it's only capable of 16 inches. I've got a mini lathe, a Nova, that will do 8 inches, and I got my 1624 that'll do 16. Then I've got this one that is 24, and I don't max it out very much. 24 is a big chunk of wood, but it does get out of balance every once in a while if I go too fast, especially on a rough piece like this one is. This wood is dry. This walnut is dry. I've had it. Well, I brought it here with me, and I've been here in this house just a little over 9 years. So it's been around a little while. I'm going diagonally across this blank as well. One of the features this lathe did come with is a big brake bar for the foot, but the switch was bad when I got it, and so immediately I changed the switch and I got the wrong kind of switch. So one of these days I'll go back and get the magnetic switch and I can hook that brake bar back up. It's really not a brake bar, it's a disconnect bar. Okay, we're getting there, and I'm coming this way, starting, coming across the corner here, working my way up. That way I can kind of get the shape of everything all in my head. And if I want to make some adjustments of some kind, I can. Right now I'm going to switch tools. I was using Doug Thompson tool. I'm going to go to a Sorby tool. And while I'm here, move my tool rest again. Well, there we go. One of these days I want to change that too. That's much better. Okay.
So Doug, what size tool are you using?
It's a 1/2-inch bowl gouge. I'm a little strange in doing that. Most people like to start off with a little bit larger bowl gouge than I do. I was just getting started, and there was one of the famous guys at that point. He died, and he made massive turnings. Well, his wife didn't want to see his work or his galleries shut down, and so she took up the art. And she did all her turning with a 1/4-inch gouge, start to finish, on massive pieces. We're talking stuff 6, 7, 8 feet in diameter.
I
She
bet
did
that
'em-
took some time to do, huh?
I imagine it did. But like I said, she did it with 1/4-inch, and at the time I was already using a 1/2 inch quite often. And so I've just stuck with it. I've got a 5/8. I just don't use it very often. Doesn't feel as comfortable in my hand. But anyway, we're getting close to getting a little bit of shape here. Just still roughing this bottom a bit.
Oh, that's an important point. Always use the tool you're most comfortable with, not what because you saw somebody else doing it.
Right, right.
especially in a demo.
There are some demo guys out there that they do some stuff that just amazes me, but I wouldn't even attempt some of that stuff they do. I'm just not comfortable with it. First, I think I've shared the story. First time I saw Jimmy Cruise before the demo started. In fact, excuse me, before the meeting started, it was for a club. Before it started, he was getting a piece of 2x4 on the lathe. He got it pretty well centered, and he turned the lathe on about, I don't know, 1/4 speed or so. And it was whirling and making a big bunch of racket. And some guys rushed up, sat in the very front row, and started talking about, I'm not scared, I'll sit anywhere. And Jimmy looked at him and said, are you sure you want to sit there? Said, oh yeah, we're gonna sit right here. Well, after he was comfortable with how he was mounted in the lathe with that 2x4, he turned the speed up. Those guys got up and moved real quick. Real quick.
Jimmy he likes to turn fast.
Yes,
Yeah,
well,
That was one of his wing bowls he demonstrates. I witnessed that firsthand. I was a videographer from my club, and he did the first demo for our club in 2007, and he did that. And
Yep.
man, that thing sounded like an airplane propeller, and the lathe was about ready to take off. It was throwing off so much air.
Absolutely.
Crazy.
Hey, Doug?
Hey Doug, your video's locked
You're
up.
froze up.
Yeah, you're frozen.
Well, we can fix that, I think.
Okay,
I'm not sure why it does that, but
back to the other camera and then
there we
back.
go.
Okay, yeah. That,
Good now.
thank you, sir.
I'm not sure. It's done that a couple of times. This is a brand new camera. But I do have an extension on it, so that might be part of it.
It's probably full of sawdust.
All right, we're getting much closer. Getting some pretty grain showing up. A little tear out in that section, but that's the end grain going into end grain. Same thing right there. All right, just keep going. Oh, I was gonna say, Jimmy, after he did his little trials there at about quarter speed, and he asked those guys if they were sure that's where they're gonna sit. He had, of course, turned the lathe off to talk to them, and when he turned it back on, he turned it on at full speed, and that was on the big one-way that the club owned at the time. So it revved up pretty good. All right. Give me just half a moment. I'm going to sharpen
I've worked
both of
with
these
Jimmy a
guys.
lot. He's a friend of mine. I've taken personal classes with him and stuff.
Yeah.
And he only turns fast in the demos, believe it or not. In his own shop, he doesn't do that. And I asked him why, and he said because he wants to make as many projects as he can during club demos.
Right.
He's teaching you, he doesn't want you to be turning that fast. So he does, and for his personal projects that he makes on his own, he doesn't turn that fast either.
Right.
It's just for, the demos he does. That's the only time he actually turns that fast.
He does it to show off. No, he has, I've heard him make the comment, I turn this fast in demos, but I don't turn this fast at turning personally, and I don't expect you to. And yet there's always somebody that goes home and that's the first thing they do is crank their lathe all the way up. All right. I sharpen with a 180 grit CBN wheel, just in case somebody's curious. All right, let's go at it again with this Sorby just a little bit longer, especially now that I've sharpened up. Oh, it cuts better too. Let's see. This lathe does not have a brake on it, so sometimes if you got a heavy piece of wood, it takes forever for it to wind down. All right. Hit something already and made dulled my tool. All right. Take a peek, just see if we can see whatever it was. And it may not be anything, it may be me. That's that bad grain. Let's look at that one little patch. It's doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. Well, it's the green button, right? Thought these dividers were already set, but I look up and there's the set of jaws I want to use. Oh. And they don't want to slide. What in the world? There they go. All right. Myself a place where I can have some idea where I'm going. Form that tenon. We'll come out a little further so I can get a nice face for the face of the jaws to go up against. Good and flat. Ever so slight dovetail on that tenon that we're going to use. This one's going to go away. I'm going to go ahead and make the bottom of this tenon pretty nice. I think I'm going to use this tenon as part of my design. Become part of the foot. All right. All right, let's move this just a little. That off so I can turn the tool rest again. So I can get out here on the very edge. I got to move the entire thing. Still got a little bark. I got a couple of flats where the piece was cut still. Wood's not coming loose from wood plate back here, but the wood plate's coming ever so slightly loose from the. It's not very much. We still good?
Looks like we're doing fine.
Okay, okay,
It's
Yep.
it's 8:40, Doug.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Just working on getting this edge round. Just the last half inch, 3/4 of an inch, something like that. Little bit of a lump right there as it transitioned, but that doesn't look too shabby. Needs a whole lot of sanding. Got a little bit of a void right there. I'm not concerned about that. I think I'll just leave it, which means I'll probably leave a little bit thicker wall. I need to go down just a little more. I would like to get rid of that. So as I get rid of that flat spot, actually 2 flat spots, we'll eliminate a little bit more of that. Well, in fact, let's just keep going. We've got just a few more minutes. Where are we? Yeah, flats are gone all the way around. The only thing I've got a bit of a knot right there that will probably stay in. In fact, I'll put some glue in it just to make sure. A little bit of bark inclusion there. That was the center of that crotch. My foot is ready. All I need to do is smooth out. I've got 2 transitions, one there and one there. I need to smooth those out fairly quickly here. That won't take just a second. Just light cuts, blending from one part of the curve into the next, and then moving on up. And I'm watching the horizon on the far side. First time I heard somebody say that, I thought, you're going to kill yourself. But it's true. You watch the horizon, you get your cut started, you know where you're going basically. And then you just watch the horizon and you can see exactly what it is that you need to do. A little bit of scraping to clean up some of my tool marks. And some of the tear out for that matter. That'll slow down for, it'll speed up my sanding. It'll take some of the time out of my sanding, which is good. All right, we got a little lump right at the top still. Get my handle down, I'm a little high. There we go. And when you get that going just right, get some pretty nice fine gossamer type shavings. And you know you're cutting down your sanding then. You still have to sand. There's still a good bit of sanding here. Some ingrain checking there. The knot has to be glued in yet. But I'll put sanding sealer on here. I'll put some CA into these cracks and probably will use some of this these shavings. Just I'll put the glue in, rub them in, pack them in. That's actually a pith right there. That's one of the branches. Trying to see where the other one is. That's part of it right there, I guess. There's 3 knots right there. Those all get glued in. All these cracks will get filled with some sawdust and CA. Parfex 3408. I'm not a salesman. I just use the stuff. I had to buy it just like everybody else. So that's what that is. And I can remember doing some things that I didn't know any better when I was first starting. And people would say, oh, you're outside, you're outside the norm. That's you're well, I forget what the term they use now, but it worked. For instance, turning a bowl between centers, start to finish. I've done it. Some of you all have as well. It can be done. It's not that difficult. Turning without a tailstock. You see the back end just got done. I'll put this chuck on it and or put the chuck on the lathe. We'll put this bowl on that chuck and get the inside turned out. So you can see it can be done. It is done. It's done fairly often. And right here's why I don't want this pocket open. I'm going to sew that pocket up. It's full. It was empty. I blew it out yesterday. So anyhow.
Turn the shirt upside down when you get done with it.
No, I'll use my air hose. Chips will go everywhere. I'll close my eyes when I do it too. But anyway,
Yeah.
Get the stitches out of the bottom of it.
that's the other thought. No, I'll put stitches in the top. Anyway, I'll get this bottom glued up, then sand. I'll do a final pass. We'll sand it up to 320. I'll use my abrasive paste and wax. We'll get this thing turned around and do the inside, and I'll have it ready to show you next week. How's that?
All right. Thanks.
Any other thoughts or questions?
Anybody got any questions? Got to be a question.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
All right.
Are we completely smooth on the outside? And I mean, I see some color, some grain. The top has got a grain change at the top. Is that dead smooth?
This is bark. This is sapwood. And then this is hardwood. So
Okay.
yeah, there are color changes there. That the bark will stay. That much bark. I'm not going to take it down any further to get rid of it. But I will put some glue on it just to stabilize it and make sure it doesn't fall out. These knots that are here, I don't think you guys can see those knots. Yeah, you can see 'em.
Yeah, looks like a
They'll
monkey
get-
face.
Yeah, sort of, kind of. They'll, I don't know. I want some of those drugs too. I'll put 3408 in those knots just to stabilize them. This sapwood will stay relatively light. It won't stay white as white as it is. You guys are seeing an awful lot of red. That's because I've got to, let me turn that incandescent light off and that's a little
There you
better.
go.
I've got to still do some color adjustment on this particular camera. But then the dark, when I put finish on this dark heartwood, that'll get even darker, be that rich walnut color that we love so much. So, but as far as turning, I'm through turning. It will get sanded. I say that. I will do a final smoothing cut after I've put all the glue on it and all that stuff. It'll be sanding sealer, glue, finishing cut, abrasive paste. No, I'll sand it and then abrasive paste, then wax. And that's what'll go on this bowl. And then I'll turn it around to the inside. Does
Hey,
that answer
Doug,
your-
I missed the European conversation in the background.
the European conversation?
Yeah, that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have our Great Britain guys with us tonight. A couple of them thought they might try, but it's we start at midnight for those guys, and it's just kind of late for most of them. Martin hangs in with us. Paul hangs in with us some nights, but most of those other guys who are usually on my lives, they're in Sleepyville right now. Most of them.
That's okay, Doug. I'm here to supervise.
All right, Ruby's here. Excellent. Glad you're here, Ruby. Ruby is we call her Queen Ruby. She is a master. She does an excellent job. Appreciate you. Anyway, any other questions or thoughts?
Yep. Thanks, Doug.
You're so welcome. Just
Thanks,
something
Doug.
different. Something different we don't see very often, a big bowl lathe being used.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that bowl lathe looks very difficult to use.
It's really not. It's really not any different from any other lathe, except I don't have a tailstock. I have to start either on a
I mean,
face
just
plate or,
just adjusting the tool rest was.
well, yes, this one, the lockdown for the tool rest or for the banjo it's difficult. I don't know why it's so hard, but it is.
Couldn't
This
that
piece-
handle, Doug, couldn't that
this piece is
handle be
13.
put on the top?
I would have to look at it. It's got a pin running through the shaft that catches on the
No, in there.
in the trough that's on the
Yeah.
bed. Yeah, the so-called bed. And so I don't know. It might. I'll have to look at it, and that might make it a little easier. And making that pin something larger, putting something over it so that it'd be larger would help as well. I've thought of
in the
that.
way of
and
the handle might get in the way of the wood too, though, on the top,
It's possible.
depending on which way it locks.
I think it's out of the way. It's in the corner more, right?
Well, right
Yeah.
now, yes, right now I've got it right on the corner.
Yeah.
A lot of times, if it's a deeper bowl, it has my banjo, the post for my tool rest has to be more center. This one is shallow enough and my tool rest is long enough that I could pretty well do it all from the side.
Nice job.
Yeah. It's just, Brenda, it's just different. To go back to your thought, it's just different. That's all.
Yeah.
It's not hugely different, just enough to sometimes make you a little bit crazy. I wanted to show you all while I was here as well. It's taped in, of course. There it is. This is my vacuum chuck. This hooks on to a vacuum cleaner, a shop vac. This vacuum has to stick into that coupling right there. Then I turned a bowl and then screwed a piece of plywood to make it a little bigger. It's got some foam on top. so that it sticks. But of course, that hole is not anywhere near the size of that, which is the end of a shop vac hose. So what do? I turned an adapter. I was started to look for one, and I thought, guys, I'm a wood turner. Why do I need that? So I turned one. One end fits into the chuck. One end fits into my hose. The tape is there because I lost my little pin that I made to hold the two together. It's a friction fit, but I made a pin. I lost the pin and my hose kept falling out. So I put a piece of painter's tape on it, and it works tremendously well. I will have no issues once I turn the inside of this bowl. I'll have no issues putting it on here to return the bottom and do any corrections I need to make on here. So anyway, don't, when we need to make adapters, I make them, turn them. It works just fine. Works just
Wow.
fine.
Doug, is there a bearing in that vacuum chuck that allows it to spin free?
Yes, sir. I just set it down. What I do with it? Oh, here it is. Still on my hose. Yes, this was when I got this, there were a number of lathes on the market that had solid spindles. This lathe has a solid spindle. It's a solid 1 inch. And so this was made by a company. So it has a bearing in it. And it works tremendously well. Of course, this is the part that's on the spindle. This, where the hose goes, it stays relatively still, and your spindle just turns.
Yeah, I
And it
wondered
does,
how that would work too myself.
it does a wonderful job.
Hmm.
And I don't need a vacuum pump for that one. I need a shop vac, which means I have to have hearing protection on and all that fun stuff. Which we probably ought to all wear all the time anyway, right?
That's right. But it was a great demo, Doug. Great demo.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And like I said, it's just something different that we don't see every day. Next time I'll be back on my Nova 16-inch and we'll do something fun there. But this will be about a 13-inch bowl when we get done with it, if it survives. I think it will, but who knows till the end. All right.
That was
Right.
good. That was really nice. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
all.
Doug.